Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Online Darts Fallout Bar as we come to reflect on night 6 of the PDC's travelling circus, the Premier League of Darts. We have now concluded and put into the books the event for the year at the Motorpoint Arena in Nottingham, and my friend and our Welsh correspondent, Gerwen Evans, has dragged himself away from the street parties and they're dancing in the streets over in Wales. Gerwen, how are you this evening?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you, Ian. It's great to see the Welsh Robin Hood was in fine form again tonight and doing what he does best. It's funny, isn't it? As in, obviously, we'll go into great detail in a bit, but a week ago, I was questioning whether his heart was still in the Premier League. Could I be further from the truth based on that? What a night. How are you, Dan?
I'm very well, mate. Yeah, all is very busy. It's been a busy old week and a busy old evening, but we're here to talk about some darts, which I'm quite excited about, because I think we said about 2 weeks ago on the Fallout Bar that the Premier League had sort of kicked into gear. Like, you know, the Premier League was here. We're seeing those top-level performances. We're seeing those big games. And finally, we see the potential, because we might not have the 8 best players in the world at present. That's a conversation for somewhere else. But we have what the PDC have presented us with, which is what they consider the 8 most watchable players on a big stage in a big arena. And for a few weeks, we didn't quite get it. But I think, by God, are we getting it now, aren't we? It's all of a sudden got quite entertaining, hasn't it, the Premier League?
Oh, in abundance. It's really kicked into gear. And even though we've sort of been worried about maybe a breakaway at the top of the table, as in, it's still real entertaining data. And even those boys struggling for wins at the moment are putting in performances that on another night, on another year, they'd be victories. So I was worried how the Premier League was going to go, if it would get boring, but they just seem to be bringing the best out of each other, and we are being treated to top quality darts.
I honestly think, like, because I'm always accused for being the sort of the Premier League fanboy, and you know that lots of other people will say, "Oh, it gets boring. It's the same thing every week, etc., etc." And I just think, well, the format and the players in there provide us with so much potential that if that potential is even half realised, then as a darts fan, you can't help but be entertained, because it produces very watchable and entertaining darts. We've got already quite a lot of folks in the chat room this evening. We'll quickly say a few hellos. Josh is in. Shelty's in as well, regular in the chat room. Kid Conga's in. Sakata, I'm going to go with Sakata. I apologise if that's wrong. Ian's in, as is Scott. It's going to be a busy old night. There's quite a few of you in already. Lots and lots to talk about. We are going to follow our usual format on the Fallout Bar. We'll have a chat about the darts that we've seen this evening, and then we will talk about the darts that we hope to see, or we'll certainly see some darts. But we're going to your neck of the woods, Gerwen. We're coming to Cardiff next week. So we'll have a little bit of a chat. First and foremost, we will work our way through this evening's fixtures. A few more just coming in, getting involved in the chat rooms in as well. Gordon and Brad are along for the ride. We opened this evening, which, and I honestly, I thought that this game set the tone for the rest of the evening, because I thought it was, again, we can talk all day long about, levels and averages and 180s, but in terms of just a very, very watchable game, Littler and Humphries kicked things off in style, didn't they?
Oh yeah, and it was sort of a perfect game to open the night, really, when you get world number 1, world number 2, defending world champion, defending Premier League champion, defending everything champion in Luke Littler, up against the world number 1 in Luke Humphries. It was there was no warming up to this evening. It was straight in with a bang, and did this game have twists and turns and everything in the middle. It was an insane game, really. And when you it was the 8th leg where it just went, it blew up with that 164, and it just, Littler found a way, as in, I'm saying like that he had a poor game. He averaged a ton. It's just when it comes to Luke Littler, averaging 100 isn't good enough.
It doesn't. That seems like, he's probably lost then. Luke averaged a ton. He's probably been beaten. It's a rare occurrence where he throws a wobbler in.
It's a B game, is it? But he finds a way, and even once it got to 4-4, and I know the 164 gives you that extra lift, you just sort of thought there was only one winner, and that's coming up against the world number 1. And that's no disrespect to Luke Humphries. It's just at the moment, whatever Luke Littler throws at, you expect him to hit it.
Yeah, I thought it was a very watchable game, but it was sort of a game of not quite 2 halves, but certainly two different sections. In that, initially we had those first 4 sets, first 4 legs of hold, where it was just set tight at a Desmond, and you thought nobody's going to lose their throw here, and it was just such dominance on throw, and it just felt like both of them did their best work on their own throw, and you thought, well, it became a case of, well, first one to blink loses. But then immediately we got break, and honestly, for 4 legs, I thought first one to blink loses, and then they both just kept going blink, and at that point, when it was that scattergun sort of, we had 4 holes of throw in a row, followed by 4 breaks of throw in a row. And at that point, again, I still just thought you could toss a coin here.
Yeah.
It's so much on a knife edge. And I think if you played that game out from 4-all again 1,000 times, you'd get it 500 times one way and 500 times the other way. But this evening, the young one, he just had it, didn't he? And then it was just, we use the phrase a lot. You use it more than most, but right things at the right time. Just found it. It came down to the last leg, and that's where he had it, didn't he?
Yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it? And I think as well, I know Luke Humphries tries to play it down, and he says Littler is great for darts, this, that, and the other, but it must get to him the little attention he's had as world number 1, and the fact that the limelight's been taken from it, it must get under his skin. And the fact now that he's losing to Littler more often than not, he doesn't look as in control maybe of matches as he was the last 18 months, 2 years. It feels like there's a few glitches in his game, and he's losing more than he probably should. But obviously, again, saying that, he's losing the informed player, and Humphries will probably bounce back next week and win the evening. So what do I know? But I just think Littler's got most darts players' numbers at the moment, and Luke Humphries is one of those.
Yeah, I mean, they've met a few times in the Premier League so far, and Littler's got the majority of them. Humphries snatches one off him here and there. Obviously, he got the win last week against him. But it was an incredibly watchable game, a very enjoyable game. We'll talk more about Luke Littler as we go on. Humphries, again, we don't need to really say too much about him because still on 15 points. Still very well positioned in the Premier League. I think most people already are convinced he's booked his place at the O2.
Yeah.
So we shall move on to the second. Maybe we should bloody bypass this, but I found this. I found it a tough watch, Carwin, and it was because I mean, Chris Dobey should have won this game in my opinion. He and the idea, the fact that it's 6-2 and on paper it looks so wide is almost difficult to get my head around. But what I'm going to have to concede is I sort of fought back against you and Cam last week with the accusation or assertion that Chris Dobey struggles with doubles when he's under pressure. And when he's got three in hand, he takes them out. And when he really needs it, they're not going. And I sort of fought back a bit. And tonight I'm sort of happy to concede and think that was in whole the story of this game.
Yeah, it was exactly that. But also sometimes his set-up play, sort of when he was on a 2-darter, not getting a dart at a double. I think it was the 96, wasn't it? He scored 40, and you're sort of thinking, at this level and the way that these 8 are playing at the moment, if you're on less than 120, you've pretty much got to take it out to win the leg, because they're so competitive and there's so little to separate them. If you've got a chance for a double without having hit the ball, then I think you've got to take it. And unfortunately, it's a case of same old for Dobey. Where he's in these matches, he's in them. Just he's not taking enough of them to put his opponents under pressure. And sort of from 2-1 up, Rob Cross wins 5 on the bounce, and it's sort of like, oh, that's not a fair result, but it sort of sums up Dobey's campaign at the same time.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I think he's probably fortunate. He's very fortunate, I think, because that first week where he bagged 3 points with that run to the final, when we first set off on the Premier League in Belfast, it is the only thing that is really making him probably not the biggest topic of conversation, in terms of things not going well. That one good night is really taking a little bit of the flack away from him. And also, we'll come to it in a minute, somebody else not being able to have a little run and getting some points on the board. But I've fought for quite some time against people saying that they are concerned for Chris Dobey. And tonight was the first time, even in our little WhatsApp group, where I'm generally quite honest, and I will defend and stick my heels in. And it was the first time tonight where I sort of said, "Yeah, I'm a bit worried now." I've not been so far, and tonight I did sort of just think, oh, I don't know where these points come from now. And we'll come to predictions for next week in a little while. But it makes the opening game of next week in Cardiff, for me, absolutely massive. Like, I think it's a huge game between Dobey and Bunting. We'll talk a little bit more about Rob Cross, a little bit later in the evening, because he got through. But I think in terms of the opening round, it was just a sort of, it was just solid. I mean, we do have to mention 85% on the doubles.
Yeah.
In that, what failed Chris Dobey benefited Rob Cross. He was clinical on the doubles. And did he just take advantage tonight, do you think, Carwin?
Yeah, that's what he did. And when you're sort of a player who might struggle on the outer ring anyway, like Dobey tends to do, if your opponent is hitting, better, 1.16 attempts at a double, then you're going to struggle, and you're going to have to heavily outscore your opponent, which Dobey was unable to do that either tonight. And then you are sort of you're fighting with scraps then, and when you're not getting maybe 5-6 starts to finish a leg, when you've got to finish it in 3, and as you mentioned, as in he's not taking those 2-3 darts combos out at the moment, so it is going to be a tough night. And I guess the only positive he can take from it is the fact Rob Cross hit 6 out of 7 on his doubles. Not everybody will do that against you. You will get more opportunities. So if you're trying to find a shining light in a sort of disappointing evening.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, 6 from 7 is superb and will win you most games. However, both of these players had the same amount of chances at doubles in this game.
Yeah.
They both created themselves the same amount of opportunities. And Rob Cross took 6 of them and Chris Dobey took 2 of them. And that is the story of this game, I'm afraid. We move on, thankfully. And we move on, I suppose, for the folks in your part of the world, Carwin, to a very positive result for Stephen Bunting. I mean, he has become. I know we've just discussed Chris Dobey, but the Chris Dobey year in the Premier League became, at times we talked about it on this show, it became almost comical because he was averaging 10 points more than his opponent and finding a way to get beat. You know, Stephen Bunting's averaged over 102. He did very little wrong in that game. You know, he was 45% on his doubles. He's there or thereabouts. And he finds a way again to just get edged out. The wrong things at the wrong time, do we think?
Oh, definitely. And it paints his Premier League campaign, this match, really, doesn't it? As in, he's done nothing wrong. As in, looking at the stats, if you asked to guess the score, he'd probably say 6-3, 6-4 Bunting, based on how they scored and their averages and what have you. But yeah, Price was on it, and Bunting failed in what we don't really see him failing much in, which is hitting double 16. And in crucial times, he just didn't do enough to win the game. And obviously, he hits the 170, and you think, okay, now you'll sort of reel off a breaker throw to force a decider with that confidence in you. And Price just looked solid on his own throw. He did enough, as in, he's not playing great, but he got the win. And from 3-all in this game, I actually thought Bunting could go on and win it, just because of what I said last week. I wasn't sure if Price's heart was in it, because I think this was Price's.
Yeah, when he broke Price for 3-all, I'm in agreement. I thought he's going to do it. He'll get some points, and it just didn't come, did it?
No, and it just sort of sums him up really, that he was sort of dart or 2 behind, even though he was averaging 5 points more. Which doesn't really make sense, but
no, it really doesn't, does it? It's it's very strange. Price just managed. He was solid, and we tend to find in the first round, when we talk about games, we talk about the losers a bit more because we've got more opportunities to talk about the winners as we go on. But I just think, I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity for Stephen Bunting, because I feel like he could have had that game, and that might have changed the next few weeks of the Premier League. And it does look like a little bit of a missed opportunity. Right, fourth game. And I'll be really honest, this didn't go the way I thought it was going to. I'll put my hands up. We've talked a lot. We had a long chat on the Live Lounge on Monday night about the recent form of Michael van Gerwen, how he played in the Premier League, how he played at the UK Open, how he played everywhere, really. I just didn't see him picking up a win this evening. And I'm still not quite sure. Well, I say I'm not quite sure. I'm becoming more sure the more I look at the data behind them. You watch it live, and then you take some time to look at it. And I'm still not sure if Michael van Gerwen beat Nathan Aspinall, or if Nathan Aspinall lost the game to Michael van Gerwen, if that makes sense, Carwin.
Yeah, and I think you might be right. I do think that Aspinall got himself into a position to win the game, and then proceeded to lose it by falling off the planet. Really, from 4-3 up to not get a dart at the double is not worrying, because we know that MVG can turn it on. And
that ninth leg was horrific, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was awful.
Yeah, as in, that felt like a very long throw. It felt, at this level of darts, to see your legs last that long, you're like, whoa, what's going wrong here? And yeah, that was sort of probably Aspinall chucking in the towel without chucking in the towel. But he'll look back at this and think, oh, I've missed a big chance there. Because MVG only averaged 90. He's there for the taking at the moment.
He was there, but you're right. That the word you used there, he was there for the taking, and he was. Michael van Gerwen was there for the taking. He did underperform, I think, in large parts of that game. And Nathan Aspinall sort of outdid him on the underperforming front. And I didn't expect it, because we've seen such positive things from Nathan very recently. The run to the final last week and some big confident wins in that. And Nathan's having a good Premier League, compared to the rest of them. Some of them are doing exceptionally well, but Nathan's doing well. He's sort of putting himself in the mix, and I really thought that he would have come through this. But he didn't. We've got a bit of an international feel to the show this evening. Anthony has joined us from across the pond. If only we had a Welshman on staff. Anthony, I keep pushing, and Carwin is gonna. There's only one man in the team I can push, but I think we should get some Welsh language content pushed out fairly soon. I'm going to start getting into Carwin's ear for some. We're a multilingual team, and we should start to take advantage of it.
Definite. I'm all up for that, big time.
I definitely think we need to have certainly after tonight, we should perhaps do a winning. We could stick a winner's post out, couldn't we? To celebrate this evening's winner.
Maybe welcome everybody to Cardiff next week in Welsh.
Yes, we're gonna go in English, Welsh, and Esperanto if I can get Google Translate working. Right, we'll move into the second round. Well, this game between Luke Littler and Rob Cross was sort of. I mean, again, it was one of those where we said at the beginning of the show, the Premier League has kicked into gear, and when you look at really all the metrics, the numbers, the finishing, Rob Cross again, like Rob Cross is finishing this evening. He's played 2 games. He's averaged 85% and 75% on his doubles. At this level, in that type of arena, against the players he's playing, that is absolutely off the charts to go back to back, 85%, 75%. And I just think he's been done, Rob Cross. I mean, he's hit 3 out of 4, but he has just been outscored and outplayed by what was just like the real top level Luke Littler. That 108 average, 60% on the doubles, the 167 finish. It's everything that makes Luke Littler was in this game, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, he sort of he showed up in style in this one, and he sort of had to as well, because Cross started well, broke him early, and you're sort of thinking, right, okay, settle down now, Rob, and just hold your throw, and you're there. But obviously, when Luke Littler wants something, Luke Littler gets it, and he turns on the style. He takes out a 167, he takes out a 164, was it? And he just sort of when it mattered in this game, he did the right thing. He found the right treble, the right double, the right finish, and 6-3 probably flatters him a bit because I think Cross had played better than that. But I guess that's what you get when you come up against the beast that is Luke Littler, who just steamrolls anything and anyone in front of him at the moment.
We'll come to head-to-head records a little bit later because we got some stats to roll out probably once we get to the final. But that's it, this year, like since the turn of the year, since we've had New Year's Eve, these two have played each other 12 times, and that's 10-2 for Luke Littler. It's a real apologies. I've read it wrong. Of course, 12 months. 12 months rolling figures. I don't know where I thought they were playing. Did practice games in the afternoon. They played 10 times on the bounce. This is what happens. You shouldn't drink Stella while you're on the stream. But of the last 12 games, 10 are Luke Littler's, and it does feel a little bit like the Nuke just got his number, doesn't it? He just seems to be able to perform against Rob Cross.
Yeah, and I think a lot of players now are sort of not jumping on the hype that Luke Littler's brought, but they're sort of buying into it as a way of, not saying helping themselves, but it's sort of, if you get on with Luke Littler, it looks good. And it just feels like, not that they're showing too much respect, maybe that's not the right term, but that they're not as business-like maybe as they were if they were facing Gerwen Price, for instance, who they know when he's on that stage, it's game head on and nothing else.
Yeah, they can't get that nasty streak that sometimes you need to win a game, innit?
Yeah, you can't. Unfortunately, in an individual sport, or if you work as an individual in any field, you cannot be too nice. Yes, you've got to be nice to get on with people, but it's dog eat dog in this world at the moment. And if there's a point available for a Premier League campaign to get you to the O2, you play for it, you fight for it. And I think Cross needs to be careful not to let it not to let it bother him, because numbers don't lie.
He has to not let it become a thing, doesn't it? Yeah. You know, like because it's becoming a little bit consistent and too consistent, and he has to not let Luke become a bogey player, if you will. We'll move on to the second semi-final. So now, for those that are privy to be in the WhatsApp groups that I'm in, will have seen that I saw the darts earlier in the night, and I still know where I think both of these players' games are at the minute. And Gerwen Price was even money with my preferred bookmaker to come through this game. So I dropped a lump onto Gezi Price, because I just thought, I did think there is no way that the Gezi Price that I saw earlier in the evening against Stephen Bunting was never going to be at risk against the Gerwen Price I saw earlier in the evening against Nathan Aspinall. And if I'm honest, Garwin, it was probably even wider than I'd thought.
Oh yeah, as in, not in my wildest dreams do I imagine a scenario where Price beats MVG 6-1 and makes it look so easy. Sorry, but he was just on it from the start, and it sort of surprised me, because when MVG did his walk on, they sort of had a bit of a joke, a bit of a laugh, which you don't really see from Price. And I thought, I wonder if he sort of just relieved to get a win in the Premier League again, and that was that. But no, he was just on it, and it's a trend we're seeing from MVG in the fact that he plays relatively well in his first game and gets through, but then is nowhere near the races in the second one. Obviously, he's actually played better average-wise in his second game than the first game, but Price raised his game as well. But MVG needs to break that habit if he sort of wants to secure his place in the playoffs sooner rather than later. So he needs to get a few finals under his belt.
Yeah, well, what I think we'll end up discussing at length probably in the days and weeks to come is, we said well before this tonight that Michael Van Gerwen was a mile away from where we expect him to be or where he would want to be, and I'm not sure if that, like I said earlier on, I think Nathan Aspinall underperformed rather than Michael Van Gerwen coming in and playing well. And I think he just hit an opponent that was on it. And Nathan Aspinall could have done the same to him, because I still don't think Michael Van Gerwen is close to where he should, needs, wants, insert verb here,
Yeah.
to be. And it was just that he caught Gerwen Price on the up. On that upward trend, he came off that first round win going that way, and Michael, unfortunately, this evening went the other way. But it was not to take away from the fact it was an absolutely superb performance from Gerwen Price. He did incredibly. I mean, the stats are superb, and it was very dominant, and especially when the crowd is still against him and he's still having to give it a bit of this and everything like that. I thought it was a really good, and again, a good watch. Unless you are, a close personal friend of Michael Van Gerwen and it hurts you to see him get beat, like that was a good watch as a darts fan. It's nice to see these things, isn't it?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And yeah, just Gezi took his chances as well. So didn't mess about too much for Michael to get into the legs. He just, first 4 legs, he killed the game off, really.
Well, we move to the final, and I've got a number of questions because this final's made me question everything, really. What a strange turn of events. I mean, first of all, I will say we have extensively on this channel discussed the absolute dominance of Luke Littler across the game. We've seen him have the 7 days of madness where he just keeps lifting trophies regardless of the shape or size of them and whatever's going on. Just keeps winning things. He is so good, but for some reason he cannot beat Gezi Price, and that's now 6 games on the spin that Gerwen Price has defeated Luke Littler. Who beats Luke Littler 6 games in a row? Nobody. Who beats Luke Littler averaging 10 points less than them? Who beats them 6-3, averaging 10 points less? Carwyn, explain. I am baffled.
Well, yeah, as in, it's a bit bonkers, absolutely bonkers. As in, we mentioned the word bogey player earlier, with Cross and Luke Littler. As in, I don't think there's many players in the darting world who have beaten Luke Littler 6 times, let alone on the bounce.
It's madness, isn't it?
It is, and obviously Luke Littler, he'll just water of a duck's back for him, as in it won't bother him that Gezi Price has beaten him 6 times in a row, because he knows at some point the run will end. But I think what you saw here was Luke Littler missing too many darts early on, which sort of gave Price a bit of confidence, got him into the game, and he just rode his luck a bit from there, really. And I think sometimes you've just got to take advantage maybe of when things are going your way. And I guess what Price did was, if he had a mare of a leg, it was when Littler had thrown all right. So it wasn't as if he was missing 6 darts to lose a leg. He was 200 points behind losing a leg. Yeah. So he wasn't sort of, wasn't beating himself up that he missed the dart at a double. He was just like, okay, I'll hit a treble in the next leg and
I'm being dominated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which happens when you play Luke Littler, isn't it? And I think that's how you try and combat it, is just think he can't have a 11 leg purple patch. He will slip up.
No, and I suppose that's easier to deal with if you are, picking legs up consistently. It's easier it must be easier to watch him do amazing things and take out monstrous checkouts when you're 4-1 up. For 4-2, and you think, oh right, well, yeah, fair enough, but that was pretty, but I'm still winning, and I just think it was a very, it was almost a dangerous performance, I think, that from Gerwen Price, because these are sorts of performances that we used to see from Gezi when he was at the absolute top of his game. Well, when he was lifting pots on the regular, that's sort of what his game looked like, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. He had that glow back to him, and you just thought he's Mr. Invincible again. And a 4-1, I felt quite confident. A 4-3, I thought, oh God, we all know, we've all seen Luke Littler come back from 3-1, 4-1 down to defeat players in the Premier League. Please let's not let it happen to Gezi Price. And to be fair, from 4-3, all the momentum with your opponent, I thought Price did well just to sort of kill the storm off and just break. That 8th leg was huge, as in my head, I thought whoever wins the 8th leg wins the game, just because had Littler come back to 4-all, you fear for Price then, but to break him there, just obviously after Littler missed the dart to level, Price just had enough in the tank then.
Quite right. Gordon's mentioned there, Craig Gezi's post-match interview spoke very highly of Littler. Absolutely. And that will serve as a little reminder, folks, that Phil Bowers has been a busy chap. He's been busy Bowers tonight in the venue, and he will be uploading all of the interviews that he's gathered with the players this evening. Everything that he's done in the press room will be dropping to the Online Darts YouTube channel over the course of probably about the next 6 to 7 hours. He will be, as soon as he gets back to the Premier Inn, he'll be uploading all of the videos onto the channel once they've been edited and ready for you to all listen to. So please do make sure that you check in, I assume tomorrow at this stage. Andrew's made a comment there about the Price celebrations need to be toned down. To be fair, at this stage in darts, Andrew, he's not licked anyone unconsensually or anything like that. He's just growled a bit and fist pumped. So in the grand scheme of things, in terms of celebrations, that he's probably relatively far down the list of things that the various agencies might want to take a look at. Right.
So just to add to that, I actually think the top boys like it. I think Littler,
they bloody love it,
had a smile on his face. He thought, "Oh, Price is up for the challenge." As in, I think when they see Price like that,
that's what happened. I think for a lot of people, like, that's what happens when you play Gezi Price. Like, if you're playing, and I know, like, some of these players come from it and they want to, they just want to win. And they don't care how it comes about. But there's a romance to it where you want to be engaged in a game where you're up for it and that player's up for it. And that's Gezi being up for it. That means he's in the moment and he's in the game, and you could be 4-1 ahead and he pings a 180 and he gets a big growl out. And I think for a lot of players, that literally can like refocus them, like, bang, yeah, I'm in this, and he's here and I'm here, and it's not just me throwing darts at the board, and it's a competition. And I don't dislike that. Let's be honest, we see enough stuff that we talk about all the time when we talk about, please drag the fans out and throw him out and do this and do that, and that needs to be done away with. And we've seen some very strange goings on at the end of games lately. I think, him giving it the big one when he hits a monster checkout and dicks someone with 107 average is like, I'd be high-fiving strangers on the night bus if I hit a 180. But, we need to gain some perspective, don't we, still? A little bit. Right. We've talked about where you can see all of the interviews from tonight. We will move on. We will move over. We'll move west and as far west as we can go and remain in these British Isles. We will go to Wales. and Cardiff next week. Carwin, are you? Do you have any plans to attend at all? Is it local enough for you where you'd make the trip? I'm not sure where. How geographic.
Yeah, I'm in Cardiff, as in I've been offered a ticket. I missed the ticket sales when they first came out, so I'm currently in a liaison with some people I'm playing the Darts League with about potentially getting a ticket from them because I've been once before, once or twice before, and it's a good night. As in the Welsh crowd are up for it. Obviously, there won't be any booing of Gezi Price of the of the other 7 players. Who knows? But I know Price won't get booed, which is obviously a strange feeling for him. So I don't think he usually does well in Cardiff because he gets a too warm a welcome.
Yeah, I have a slight theory that he struggles. I think Gerwen Price, because I do think he is, in terms of darts, he is like almost one of the purest in terms of what you would term a sportsman. Like he is an elite sportsman, and his sport at this moment in time happens to be darts, and therefore I do think he can almost be too comfortable, and it's not a good thing for him. Is he needs that competitive edge. He needs to feel like he's fighting against something. So 20,000 people with their arm around you might not be you need to motivate yourself into battle.
Exactly, yeah.
But we'll come to Gezi Price a little bit later. In fact, we'll come to him last because we will go through the event in Cardiff next week in draw order. And I'm going to come in the chat room. Make sure you get your predictions in. We want scores. First to 6, don't forget, in the first round, the opening game. And this is the definition of what in footballing terms you would call a 6-pointer. But Chris Dobey against Stephen Bunting, massive game at the very, very foot of the table. Carwin, what are you predicting here?
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? Because potentially we could see 2 players' campaigns not come to an end, but there could be a big gap between them. Or if Dobey wins, it's 1 player falling too far back. I fear that Dobey's doubling will be the problem here. Bunting has played well enough in the first 6 games to pick up victories. He's just been bombarded by ridiculous averages, not tonight, but on the whole, by ridiculous averages from his opponents. His luck must turn, and I just think Dobey's sort of dropped off too much in recent weeks to be able to sort of take advantage of Bunting's unfortunate woes. So I'm going to say Bunting wins 6-3.
Well, I'm going to break a record. And for the first time, I am going to not pick Chris Dobey. Because I think that the doubling has been so bad for such a long time. But the only hope he has is to outscore his opponent and give himself plenty of opportunities at doubles and give himself sort of 3 darts in hand regularly. And I just don't think that he will outscore Bunting enough to allow him the time that he needs at present to get rid of his doubles. And therefore, I'm forced to go 6-3 Bunting. As much as it genuinely upsets me to do so, my head rather than my heart says that. In the chat room, Gordon has got 6-5 to Bunting. James has gone 6-4 Bunting. Patrick is keeping the faith. He's gone 6-5 to Dobey. Andrew's gone 6-2 Bunting. That's a hell of a name. Scratching with DJ Steve. Oh, I've got a birthday party to book later this year. You could be the man for me. He's gone 6-3 Bunting. Bob has gone 6-4 Dobey, and Bob is normally absolutely on point with his predictions, and I pray that Bob is right. Alistair has gone 6-5 Bunting. Nico is a 6-4 Bunting. The chat room, probably along with us, leaning. We've got a pivot to the Bunting side. Not quite all the way, though. There is still some hope in the Dobey front. Game number 2, Luke Humphries against Michael van Gerwen. Now, I forced you first in the last one, Carwin, so I will take the first pick on this because I think this is a fairly simple game. I saw enough from Luke Humphries this evening, and I saw nowhere near enough from Michael van Gerwen this evening. And it's a very comfortable 6-3 pick for Luke Humphries for me.
Yeah, I think you're right, isn't it? As in, one of the two looks like they can bounce back immediately with a big performance, and MVG's and that person, as in, he seems to be relying at the moment on other people losing to keep himself in the top 4
Correct.
in the Premier League, and he's getting enough. He's doing enough to beat those in and around him when he does play them. But when he comes up against either Luke or Gerwen Price, he's not at the races. So I agree with you. Humphries quite comfortable. I'm going to go Humphries 6-2.
Oh, it's a big
Yeah, why not?
swing. It's a big swing, but I don't disagree with it. I think it's one more leg than I've given him. In the chat room, Gord, I think we're going to have a bit of a similar view here. Gordon's gone 6-3 to Humphries. Alistair's gone 6-2 Cool Hand. Andrew is keeping the faith with MVG. He's on 6-4 scratching with DJ Steve. I think I'll just go with DJ Steve from now on, and rather than the full title, unless that's a problem. 6-2 to Humphries from DJ Steve. Bob has gone Humphries 6-4, so we're on the right track, Carwin. We're up there with Bob. Nico has gone 6-2 Humphries, Patrick 6-2 Humphries as well. And much further into one camp for that one. Not too many giving MVG a hope for that one. So next we get to Luke Littler against Nathan Aspinall. Aspinall has been on the rise of late, but tonight not at the races. Do you think he's going to capture some of that form back, Carwin, or is Luke Littler just Luke Littler?
I think the problem the Aspa has is that he could recapture some of that form and get himself to a close to 100 average. But what we also know is that a Luke Littler B game is about 103 average. So,
correct.
So with that in mind, I don't. Even if Luke Littler does raise his game, I don't think he does it enough to beat Littler, and also Littler will want to sort of bounce back from tonight. So I think he wins quite comfortable, and 6-2 Luke Littler.
Well, it's boring if I say the exact same. So I won't. It's whether I go one leg either way. I will be slightly more generous and say 6-3 Littler. But if you hadn't have done it, and if I wasn't just trying to be slightly different, I would have gone for 6-2 Littler. That's exactly the score that I had in my head. I can also see in the chat room that's the predominant and prevailing prediction I think that's coming through. Alistair has gone 6-3 Littler. Andrew has gone 6-1, which will take a mean average of 6-2 on. Gordon has gone 6-3 Littler. Patrick's gone 6-4. Nico's gone 6-4. DJ Steve's gone 6-2, as has Bob. We haven't got anybody picking the app for next week. You know what that means, Carwin? You contact your preferred bookmaker of choice and put your points on the app, because if we're all saying one thing, you're guaranteed something else will happen. Final quarterfinal of next week. And I think this is an interesting game because I remain like, I remain genuinely impressed with the consistent form of Rob Cross, while retaining the inability to not do anything that's worthy of a news headline. Like, he manages to play incredibly well, yet never do anything that warrants someone like putting it on Twitter or Facebook. It is a really strange line that he's skirting at the minute. But I'll go first on this one because I sent you first on the last. And I don't want to preempt us agreeing. But I just think that Gezi Price is on the up at the minute. I think he's definitely on an upward trajectory, but I think it will be tough. So I will give it a Gezi Price 6-5 victory over Rob Cross.
Yeah, not as straightforward as you'd think on this one. Rob Cross is the type of player that would upset Cardiff and not give two hoots about doing it.
Correct.
And this is my worry. And as I said earlier, the crowd in Cardiff will be nice to Gerwen Price, and will it, as in, I can't go against him in his home. In his home Premier League net, surely. No, don't be silly, Karen. I'm going to go heart over head here because I'm Welsh and we're guilty of that all too often.
Good.
And I'm going to say Price wins. He wins 6-3. Go on.
As soon as you said heart over head, I thought you were going to go 6-0. I thought he's gone in 2-footed. He's fully committed.
No, not quite that crazy.
6-0 and give us 3 verses of Land of Our Fathers. Sign off for the night. Right, in the chat room, where have we got? So, Patrick, I think we're going to be mixed in here. Patrick's gone 6-4 Cross. I think it's a game that could go either way if we're really truthful. Andrew has gone 6-2 to Cross. Gon's gone 6-5 Cross. Alistair's gone 6-4 Cross. A lot of Cross love in the chat room. DJ Steve has gone 6-4 to Cross. Nico 6-5 Price. Bob's gone 6-4 Gezi, and you know what that prediction means, Carwin. You can
breathe a sigh of relief after seeing Bob's prediction.
Flags to hand going into next week. Right, with that, one last prediction, everybody, before we wrap up the show. And in a very, very rare occurrence for a Thursday night, we're going to finish today and not tomorrow because it's not even quite quarter to midnight yet. Who, Carwin, from next week's draw at the Utilita Arena in Cardiff are your finalists? Who beats who in the final? Same in the chat room. Have a quick look at the bracket and tell me who beats who in the final next week. Carwin, I shall come to you first.
Gerwen Price goes back to back and beats Stephen Bunting 6-3 in the final.
Oh, imagine. I mean, I'd love to see that because I think that the atmosphere in that arena and just the spectator or the spectacle of seeing him do that would be absolutely beautiful. However, I'm going to go. Am I going to go a little bit rogue? Yeah, I am. I'm going to go completely rogue. And if it wins, if it fails, I've lost nothing. And if it comes off, I'll be able to come and brag on this show next week. But what will happen next week is that Stephen Bunting will beat Luke Littler in the final. And there, folks, is a rogue pick. But if you're sat at the bottom of the table on no points, but you are as good as Stephen Bunting, it is surely only a matter of time because he's got the game and he's playing that well. We saw Chris Dobey play incredibly well and keep getting beat, but he won a night. And we will see the same from Stephen Bunting, and it will happen next week. Let's have a little look at what the chat room thinks. They won't agree with me, I can guarantee you. Gordon thinks that Littler beats Humphries 6-5. I'm getting that straight off the screen. Alistair, we're not having you sit on the fence. Littler wins against Cross. I would like a score, please. Thank you very much. There we go. All right. So DJ Steve has gone Littler to beat Humphries 6-4. We've got a lot of Littler Humphries dominance. Andy has gone Littler beats MVG 6-1 and a 9 data. Wow. If that's what you think, mate, contact your bookmaker of choice because tasty price for that. Alistair, he's always gone with it. He's 6-2. He's gone Littler beats Humphries 6-2 from Alistair. We've got one in there. What else have we got? Bob has gone. Gezzy beats Humphries 6-4, keeps his winning streak against Littler by beating in the semis. That would be. I mean, again, you know, Carlsberg don't do Premier League nights, do they, Carwin? But if he gets if he gets through both Lukes and wins in Cardiff, that's about as good as it gets, I think, isn't it, over there?
Yeah, beating 1, 2, and 4 in the world in Cardiff. Oh, Scene's bank holiday job.
Just imagine. Daly has gone Bunting beating Littler 6-4. There's a wise man in there. I didn't think anybody would follow me, but somebody has. Nico has gone Humphries beating Littler 6-4. Folks, it's been an absolute pleasure. As always this evening, we've managed to wrap up just inside of an hour, which is I think it's about the mean average probably for a show like this. We will be back next week. I'm not sure if Carwin is. I think you are. Well, it depends if he decides to go to the darts or not, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I will be back next week to have a little chat about what happens at the Premier League in Cardiff. Please don't forget, folks, all of the interviews from tonight will be available either later this evening or tomorrow morning, depending probably on the Wi-Fi in Phil Bar's hotel and how good the upload speed is. But all the interviews will be available on the Online Darts YouTube channel and various other places where we push them to as well. Don't forget Live Lounge on Monday and everywhere else that you get your darts content. Make sure you are subscribed to all of the different platforms that we push things out on. Thank you all very much as ever. Thank you, Carwin, the Welsh correspondent, as ever. It's a pleasure to have you along. And good night, everybody. See you next week.